according to your steadfast love. In your great compassion, blot out my offenses. Wash me through and through from my wickedness, and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my offenses, and my sin is ever before me. Remove my sin with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be purer than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness, that the body you have broken may rejoice. Hide your face from my sins, and blot out all my wickedness. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and sustain me with your bountiful spirit.
Jesus is coming to town. It's the 19th chapter of Luke's Gospel, and the people of the community of Jericho are excited. Jericho is not the big fortified city we met in the Old Testament. Now Jericho is we call it a city, but it's really a village. And in this village, not a whole lot happens. In fact, the biggest news of the community is when one important person happens to be passing through on his or her way to Jerusalem, which is exactly what is taking place in the 19th chapter of Luke's Gospel. Jesus is passing through Jericho on the way to Jerusalem. And as it works in small towns, word travels fast. The people come out. Everybody is there. They want to see this Jesus. They've heard of him before. Some people have heard about his sermons. Others have heard about his teachings. But people, most of all, have been talking about the rumors that maybe, just maybe, he's a healer. Maybe, just maybe, he has power over evil. There's stories about Jesus that are so big, so grand, they're hardly believable. And so everybody is there. The people of Jericho have gathered to watch Jesus pass through their community. And like all communities, Jericho consists of really two types of people. There are the shouters, and then there are the shushers. You know what I'm talking about. Every community has these types of people. You have the shouters and the shushers. And as I tell the story, I should be honest. I'm a shusher. I'll give you perhaps the best example I can think of. A couple of years ago, I went to a high school boys basketball game. Many of the boys who were playing on the team had gone through confirmation at United. I knew their families. They were having kind of a rough season. They were playing hard, they were getting better, but wins were few and far between. And so I went along with others to support them, to encourage them, and perhaps to be able to follow up with a conversation later about how the season was going and how life was going. And unfortunately, the game unfolded like it had unfolded before. They played hard, but the other team was clearly just better. And about halfway through the second half, I think it was Winona was up by 19 points. And at this point, anybody who knows anything about basketball could look at these two teams and say, this game is over. And then a funny thing happened. Red Wing made a couple of shots. Winona had a couple turnovers. Red Wing made a couple more shots, and Winona started missing free throws after free throw, until finally it came within the last 90 seconds. It was a small miracle, if you will. Red Wing hit not one, not two, but three three-pointers, including the game winner right as the ball went through the net right as time expired. And as I looked at the look of elation on the players' faces, as I saw the coaches jumping up and down, as I looked at the student section rushing the court, and all around me, parents were jumping up and down and cheering. Back when there were actually crowds at games, the whole gym was just full of noise. One mother even had tears in her eyes. She was so happy. And in the midst of this moment, I stood up and I clapped strenuously, like 3, maybe 4 times, because that's what I do. I'm not a shouter. I'm a shusher. I don't like to show too much emotion in public. It just feels unsettling to me, even at a basketball game, at a joyous night. We've all had moments where we're uncomfortable with shouters. I'm sure you're thinking about a moment perhaps in a store or in a public building or a restaurant where the person next to you, whether you know that person or not, suddenly raises his or her voice and they cause a scene, and everybody knows how the crowd reacts in the midst of a situation, right? First there's a pause. You can feel that the tension in the room rises and everybody stops doing what they're doing, and then what happens 5 or 6 seconds later? You see people beginning to sneak a peek in your direction. You can read their thoughts. They're wondering, was that him? Was that her? Was that you that was making that noise? Was it you that was making a fool of yourself? And in those moments, what do you want to do? Well, you want to stand up and say to the entire room, to the entire restaurant, to the entire store, it wasn't me, it was him, it was her. But of course, to do that would make you a shouter. So instead, you just sit there. Most of us in these situations, we prefer to be shushers. You know who shushers are. When other people are starting to raise a ruckus, we went, shh, just calm down. Sometimes we say it with our mouth, sometimes we say it with our hands. Somebody we care about gets a little bit riled up. What do? We put our hand on his or her shoulder. Shh. We don't like that excessive emotion because we know what it looks like. You look foolish. You look vulnerable. You look weak. No, to be a shouter is very little good that comes with being a shouter. We want to be like the people of Jericho. Jericho is filled with a bunch of respectable, strong-minded people who are shushers. They know how to act. They know how to pretend like they have life all together. Except for that one guy. Because every community, of course, has that one guy, and the city of Jericho is no exception. There's this one guy in the midst of the crowd who won't stop shouting, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And what do the people of Jericho do? They shush him. Shh, knock it off. Jesus is passing by. This is embarrassing. Shh. but he doesn't listen. Jesus, Son of David, he calls out, have mercy on me. And the people look at him. They give him that sideways glance that says, be quiet. You know that scowl. You've seen it before. You've probably even given it before. That scowl that says, just be quiet. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing all of us. But the man in our story doesn't see the sideways glances because he's blind. The blind man of the city of Jericho doesn't see all of the glances, people telling him to be quiet. He doesn't see them raise their hands, telling him to dampen his voice. And maybe he hears them shushing him, but he doesn't care. You see, he can't pretend. He can't act like he has life together. He can't act like he's got it all figured out. He can't act like he isn't weak or vulnerable, because the truth is, he's a blind man living in the ancient world. And it feels like every day his world could just come tumbling down. He's desperate. People of God, I know the temptation because I feel it myself. The temptation is to go through life every day and to be a shusher. To be a shusher to the world, to act like you have life all together, act like you have life all figured out. And most days, I'm guessing that's probably the best way to go through life. To at least put on a happy face and do the best we can. Keep a stiff upper lip. But there are moments. I don't know, like when you're 12 months into a global pandemic, or like when it's so cold you go outside and it feels like your breath is going to freeze in your mouth, or on those days when it feels like you haven't gathered with your family and who knows how long, and you haven't been together with friends, and you feel this craving, and all the anxiety of the world just keeps building and building and building. There are moments like these when it's hard to pretend like we have life together. It's hard to pretend like we don't feel fragile and confused, weak and vulnerable, which is why the church gives us Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday it's not my favorite day of the year because frankly, Ash Wednesday is the day that God invites me to do something I'm not comfortable with. Ash Wednesday is the day you and I get invited to become shouters, to acknowledge that we've got a problem and that we need help. And that doesn't mean we actually raise our voices, but I suppose if you're watching at home, you're certainly welcome to do so. If you have a Lent in the bag, you can take out the ashes that you were given. And the reason why we mark ourselves with ashes once a year, it is our way of shouting to God, to admit the truth that is so embarrassing, frankly, we don't even want to admit it to ourselves. And that the truth is that there are situations in life that make us feel weak, make us feel vulnerable. There are situations in life that no matter how respectable we may act or feel, the truth is we need help. We need Jesus. And so this day when the music plays, for those of you who have ashes, I invite you to take them out. If you gather with a family, you can do this with one another, or you can just do it by yourself. You mark yourself. From dust you came, to dust you shall return. The reason why we do this is because it's our way of saying, Jesus, I need help. Jesus, I need you. And if you don't have ashes, you're welcome to go to your kitchen sink and do the same thing with water. From dust I came, to dust I shall return. We say those words to admit the truth, to say, Jesus, we need you. And here's the good news, people of God. God hears our prayers. God hears our shouts. In the city of Jericho that day, everybody turned to that blind man saying, shh, be quiet, stop it, you're embarrassing yourself. Everyone did this except one person, Jesus himself. Jesus heard the desperate man's pleas and stopped. Jesus said, come here. He stretched out his hand and he healed the man. Because that, dear friends in Christ, is what Jesus does. When we cry out for help, When we say, Jesus, we need you, Jesus shows up. He stretches out his hand and he grabs a hold of us and surrounds us with his grace, his mercy, and his love. So don't be afraid this day above all days to be a shouter, to shout out, Jesus, I need you, and trust that the Son of God will be there with you and for you, answering your plea. Amen.
Have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love.
Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin.
For I know my transgressions and my sin is ever before me.
Against you, you alone, have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight.
You are justified in your sentence and blameless when you pass judgment.
You desire truth in the inward being. Therefore, teach me wisdom.
Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean.
Wash me, and I shall be purer than snow.
Hide your face from my sins, and blot out all my iniquities.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me.